Okay, so here I am browsing for the RPG horror story of the night, and all of a sudden I find this. Look, it's hard to explain my next RPG, but basically everyone is in hell, and Doomslayer is coming to destroy absolutely everyone. And so you must power up, grow stronger, by having sex. What the fuck? Alright, I joined this D&D/gaming Discord server a short while back. Recently, the server's DM, I think he ran games in the servers before, not sure, says that he'll run a new campaign soon, and I say, I'm in. We get to scheduling. I won't be attending the first session for personal reasons, but I'll be able to attend afterwards, so no problems. He tells us to make characters, but don't make your backgrounds yet, he says. He wants to run a prologue session. I mean, okay, I guess. They play the prologue session. He writes a recap that basically says the players are a group of teenagers in a really nice seaside village. Then they get attacked and half the village gets killed, etc. 10 years pass and you want to get revenge. So here he's giving us all the backstory and main motivations he wants us to have, which is a bit railroady, but I don't mind, I guess. We can still make it our own. I'm going to talk about my character because it's going to come into play later. So for my character, I made a changeling since I liked this guy's thing and went for Divine Soul Sorcerer. I played the class in a one-shot and it was fun. I read up a bit on the official changeling info in the books and in Reddit for some inspiration for a character concept and liked a few ideas and made them my own. I thought he'd be a chef who also worked with poisons and can poison his enemies in their food. I thought it could be fun to roleplay, but wasn't expecting it to come into actual play a lot aside from flavoring. Flavoring, because he's a chef. Never mind. I had this upbeat, kind of fun personality in mind for him. For his backstory, since he's a changeling, I wanted him to be kind of bothered about not having a true face and his own identity, an imposter syndrome kind of thing. And the official book says they are often orphans, so I wanted him to be adopted, loving family, but not changelings, so maybe they didn't help him to come to terms with this in particular. When the campaign starts, he would mainly use white changeling skin, and for his character arc, maybe later he could realize his true face and identity and what he wants to be. The DM says that he wants to talk about our characters and flesh them out. Okay, so cool. I joined the voice chat to talk about mine. There was someone already talking to him, so I wait a few minutes since they were finishing up. Now, it's my turn. We start for a couple of minutes where he gives me another recap of the prologue. Then a girl joins the channel and says that she has a break in university and can talk now for a bit. I was about to say, sure, she can go before me, but before I could say that, the DM tells me to wait. He takes off with her to another channel on their own for some reason, even though he was doing it with everyone else together on this channel right here. I wait, and the guy before me seems to have played with this DM before, and he was a chill guy. So he says hey, and we work on our characters and brainstorm while we wait, and I'm all for it. So I tell him my basic concept, and he tells me that the DM will likely ask why he's a chef and whatnot. I thought he could have learned from one of the NPCs the DM wrote, who apparently cooks, and she could have sparked that passion in the character. Or maybe he could have a god of food or cooking and the divine soul thing could come into play. This other player also says that 10 years have passed since the prologue, so what did the character do in that time? We had a good back and forth about the character, and I think of this. My character ran a restaurant during the day, and during the night he would seek information on the people who attacked the village. By using the changeling and sorcerer abilities and infiltrating places and using poisons to kill enemies if necessary, the restaurant is a passion and a front. Maybe it's not too successful so that when the campaign starts, I run out of business and I join the adventure. Maybe not the best backstory, but not completely horrible, I think. The DM comes back after talking to this girl, and he gives yet another recap of the prologue, which I guess was a bit of a red flag about his obsession with this story, but anyway. And then, that's where the horror story truly starts. I was waiting for him to ask about my character, and the first thing he says is him.
Roll a d20, please.
Okay, I roll the dice.
Your father was a hunter and your mother is a tailor.
I'd like them to be his foster parents, if that's okay.
Why, so his changeling parents just threw him away?
You can guess the tone was ridiculing me, which took me aback because it was a simple detail, and this ridicule just came out of nowhere. I respond by saying that I just read that changelings were often orphans, and I like the idea for him. The character isn't sure why he was an orphan, though. He never met his parents.
In this world, there is no racism or anything like that. Even goblins aren't discriminated against. There's no place for an edgelord.
I was honestly completely confused at this point. I wasn't sure what racism had to do with this. In hindsight, maybe the changelings being orphans part? And I guess he misinterpreted the orphan part as me going for an edgelord, which may be understandable, so I just clarify. Look, just to be clear, I'm not going for an edgelord, so you don't need to worry about it. My character is happy, cooperative, and all. I just thought I'd give him some depth. He insisted that I not be an orphan. I said I chose the foster parents thing because I thought it also fits. The whole true face thing I described above and the arc of realizing his true face. He said,
"Oh, right, that's not gonna happen." About the character arc?
He went on once again to go over the recap of the prologue and essentially said two things. This game is about his story, not my character, and that I already had a motivation and arc in his revenge plot for the village in the prologue. I said, fair enough, it's his game after all. His parents are biological if that's what you want, and nothing about my character ever needs to come into play. And regarding the true face to my character not being sure about his identity, he just kept repeating,
"It doesn't make sense. He grew in this village his whole life. He has friends and that he knows and people know him. He can't be confused by his identity. He knows his identity."
I told him I don't see how the two are related. Why does it not make sense? People living in the same place and having friends doesn't mean they can't have inner issues about their identity. He kept on repeating the same thing and saying it doesn't make sense. Then he said he'll let my character have his shape-shifting abilities manifest later in life so he doesn't have any true face issues, and he believes the face he had before manifestation is his true face. Seems like the DM is taking it too far, changing how the race operates just so I don't include this idea I had. But I say fine, he has no issues regarding his identity whatsoever. So to find common ground, I have to move on to the next point. My character is a chef at day and spy at night. I thought surely he won't dismiss my character infiltrating places to get information and poisoning enemies for the DM's revenge plot, since, it's the DM's main thing. I thought wrong. He says, how can you be a chef and an assassin and a sorcerer?
It doesn't make any sense.
He basically kept on telling me to change my character, change the backstory, and to make him a rogue, without actually discussing what I wanted. He never asked why I thought my concept can easily make sense in my opinion, plus I had already told him it's a backstory. If you want, it doesn't have to come into play during the actual game, but he was having none of it. And then, in a vain effort to seem reasonable, I guess, he was like,
"If you want this concept, then you can start at level 2.
The other starting level 4.
And multi-class as a rogue, because 10 years is not enough time to learn poisons and be a chef and be a sorcerer."
I mean, backgrounds give you a 2 toolkit proficiencies by default, so poisonous kit, and cook's utensils, and sorcerer is the character's class, which he can practice every day, even while running the restaurant at day or infiltrating homes at night. If you ask me, I think 10 plus years is enough time to learn to cook and use basic poisons while practicing sorcery. But what do I know? This was ridiculous, even by his standards. Now I tell him, do you want me to play an archetypal assassin rogue character? If you do, then tell me and I'll do it. I just think it could be fun to change things up. I think it makes sense for my character to not be a rogue. He can infiltrate by shape-shifting and using his sorcerer abilities like suggestion/charm spells, and the concept revolves around charisma, not stealth. And he could be a chef during the day and close shop early. Maybe that's why the restaurant is not successful? So I don't see the issue. And I enjoyed Divine Soul subclass mechanically. Story-wise, I told him it can simply be an angel ancestor or something. I didn't want to tell him about the food cooking god idea because at this point I knew it would be ridiculed and
Not make sense.
despite all of this, he kept ridiculing the idea and saying it doesn't make sense and there's no way the character could have been all that. He then said,
I'm just trying to have it make sense in the world.
which translates to, I just want you to make your character my way. And basically, he was set on the idea that my character was an edgelord, but said,
It's okay if your character is depressed. X's character is kind of depressed. Your character doesn't make sense though.
and the funny thing is, I literally never said my character was depressed. In fact, my character is very happy, but the DM just has this idea and won't let it go. Maybe he was using it as an excuse to force me to change my character to what he wants. And I don't know if to him adoption equals sad and depressed edgelord, but I literally told him more than once that's not what I was going for. I also told him I was brainstorming ideas with X, this other player, and it was going fine, and I was open to changes, but that I don't like the way he's shooting down every idea as not making sense, without even asking for an explanation from me. To which he replied,
I'm the DM, not X.
I mean, okay, I know that. No need for the power trip. Now, keep in mind, I was literally not set on any idea, and when I came in, I was ready to change anything, and I did change some aspects during my talk with the other player, but the way this DM was forcing everything and being a dick about it did not make me want to change anything at all. Look, if he had just said, I don't want you to do this for my campaign, I'd be fine, but ridiculing every idea and saying that they don't make sense just made him look like a dick who wants to control every aspect of the game, and this made me extremely uncomfortable. At the end, when I called out his behavior, he became extremely rude, and he said he doesn't want me in his campaign and started cursing, so I left the server. I talked to the other players, and he told me that the DM had a few communication issues in the past with others as well. And apparently there was another player who wanted to be a druid. The DM told him that druids are a part of two factions in his world. One is the one who attacked your village, and the other faction is on the other side of the world, so hence, it doesn't make sense for you to be a druid. I mean, even if you really didn't want to change anything whatsoever in the world to accommodate the player wanting to be a druid, could you not let this player travel to the other side of the world during the 10 years between the prologue and session 1, or simply have a druid from the other faction be present in this part of the world to teach the player something? But no, it doesn't make sense, apparently. Honestly, this is a pure example of a bad DM who cares nothing for his players and just wants to run a story he imagined, have a power trip where he controls everything. If you're like that, just write a book. This is textbook railroading, ladies and gentlemen, but there is something that we haven't covered before, and that is a DM refusing to just make minor adjustments to the world to allow for a player character to exist. Two of my players who are siblings in real life want to play Genasi siblings in the game. I have written no Genasi lore, and for all intents and purposes, they don't exist in the world yet. However, that doesn't mean I shut down their cool character concept just because I haven't prepared anything. I could just write a paragraph about what Genasi are and then boom, I'm done. Now I have lore, it's all set up, let's make these characters. That's all you need to do. And I understand that some DMs will not include certain aspects into their world, and that is fine. But make some allowances. Don't allow lore accuracy to clutter up the entire affair and block players from accessing certain races or classes, because that is just kind of lame. It muddles character creation and makes it a lot less of a fun experience. Alright, that's all I really have to cover for that. If you want to see my thoughts on railroading, there's a bunch of videos in RPG Horror Stories, and I have a Tabletop Tavern Tips episode linked in the cards. If you guys enjoyed this episode of RPG Horror Stories, then please do leave a like. If you want to see more episodes of this series, as well as my other content, then please do subscribe to Crispy's Tavern, and finally, if you want to leave your thoughts or your own stories, then go down to the comment down below. In essence, like, comment, subscribe. I will see you all next time. Farewell.